It began as a personal experiment, one that I didn't expect to change me so deeply. For years, my life had revolved around screens. From the moment I woke up, I reached for my phone before I even opened my eyes fully. Notifications dictated my mornings, messages filled my afternoons, and endless scrolling consumed my nights. My world existed in pixels and vibrations. One evening, as I sat on my couch with my laptop, tablet, and phone all glowing around me, I caught my reflection in the dark window. My face was lit by artificial light, eyes glazed with fatigue. I suddenly asked myself a question I hadn't thought about in years. When was the last time I was truly alone with my thoughts? That moment sparked an idea. What if I went a full week without technology? No phone, no laptop, no internet. Just me, the world, and silence. My friends laughed when I told them, "You won't last a day," one said. Maybe they were right. But something inside me wanted to try. Day one disconnection the first morning was chaotic. My hand kept reaching for my phone like a phantom limb. I felt the urge to check messages, weather, and news, but there was only silence. I didn't even have an alarm clock, so I had to wake up using sunlight. Breakfast felt awkward. I ate in silence, without scrolling through social media. I went outside and immediately noticed things I had ignored for years: the chirping of birds, the sound of the wind brushing against trees, the warmth of the sun on my skin. It was both peaceful and unsettling. My mind, used to constant stimulation, began to wander restlessly. By evening, I felt isolated. I couldn't text anyone or check in online. I realized how dependent I'd become on virtual company to avoid loneliness. That night, I went to bed early, unsure whether I was bored or calm. Day two, the silence grows. The silence felt louder on the second day. Without podcasts or background music, my thoughts echoed. I began to realize how much noise I had used to avoid thinking. Now, every thought surfaced: worries, regrets, dreams. I found a notebook and started writing. The words poured out faster than I expected. I wrote about things I hadn't said out loud in years: my fears, my ambitions, my confusion about the future. There was something therapeutic about the pen scratch on paper. Later, I took a walk around the neighborhood. For the first time, I noticed the details. The cracks in the sidewalk, the scent of blooming jasmine, the sound of a child laughing from a nearby park. Life was happening all around me, and I had been too distracted to see it. Day 3. The struggle. This was the hardest day. I missed convenience. I couldn't search for recipes, navigate with GPS, or listen to music. My brain craved instant answers, but now I had to rely on memory and instinct. Cooking became an adventure of trial and error. At lunch, I visited a small cafe. Normally, I would stare at my phone between bites, but now I just looked around. I watched people talking, laughing, scrolling, each in their own digital bubble. It felt strange, like watching a world I no longer belonged to. When I got home, I sat by the window as rain began to fall. Without distractions, I just watched the drops slide down the glass. Time slowed down. It wasn't boring. It was real. Day 4, rediscovery. By the 4th day, something shifted. The craving for digital stimulation began to fade. My mind felt clearer, my thoughts less cluttered. I started reading again, not eBooks, but an actual paperback I'd abandoned months ago. Each page pulled me deeper into imagination. I spent hours walking outdoors. Without headphones, I listened to the rhythm of the world, the crunch of gravel under my shoes, the whisper of trees, the distant sound of traffic blending like white noise. It felt like meditation in motion. That night, I wrote in my journal, I don't miss the noise anymore. I miss the connection, but maybe real connection isn't online. Day 5, conversations return without texting or social media. I had to meet people in person, so I did. I invited an old friend for coffee. The kind of meeting that usually starts with a selfie and ends with checking messages mid-conversation. But this time, we talked. Really talked. We laughed about childhood memories, shared stories, and lost track of time. When I came home, I realized that conversations had become deeper, more genuine. Without screens, I was fully present. No notifications interrupting thoughts. No photos to capture the moment, just memory. That night, I wrote again. Maybe technology connects us globally, but it also distances us personally. Day 6, clarity. By now, my routine felt lighter. I woke with the sunrise, walked without purpose, and felt a strange serenity that had been missing for years. The anxiety that once came from constant online updates was gone. I felt enough. I spent the day sketching, something I hadn't done since high school. It didn't matter that the drawings weren't perfect, it felt joyful. I realized that creativity had been buried under endless notifications and comparison. Without tech, I wasn't performing for Legzo. I was creating for myself. That evening, as I watched the sunset, I noticed how natural beauty unfolded in silence. No filter, no camera, just pure color and emotion. It made me think of how often we capture moments without feeling them. Day 7, reflection. My final day without technology arrived quietly. I felt proud and oddly sad. I'd rediscovered a version of myself that I'd forgotten. Patient, observant.com. I realized that silence wasn't empty, it was full of awareness. When the week ended, I turned my phone back on. The screen exploded with notifications, messages, emails, news alerts. For a moment, I hesitated. I didn't want to lose the stillness I'd found. I read a few messages, but then I turned the phone off again. I smiled, realizing I no longer needed constant connection to feel connected. That night, before sleeping, I wrote one last entry. I thought I'd be lonely without technology, but I discovered that loneliness isn't the absence of connections, the absence of presence. Looking back, that week changed the way I live. I didn't give up technology it is too deeply woven into modern life, but I learned to use it differently. I now start each day without screens for the first hour. I go on digital walks with no devices. I eat meals without checking my phone. Small habits, big peace. Technology is a gift, but it's also a mirror reflects what we bring to it. When used mindfully, it connects, educates, and inspires. But when used endlessly, it consumes. The real challenge isn't living without tech, it's learning how to live with it without losing yourself. Now, every time I feel that familiar urge to scroll mindlessly, I remember that week, the quiet mornings, the handwritten pages, the colors of sunsets untouched by screens. And I remind myself that sometimes the most meaningful connection isn't online, it's within